It's always awkward to kick these off. I never know really how to start them up, but
I
we'll
was
get
I was
started.
I was the man in the box,
Okay.
so that's what I'm going to do while you start.
All right. Thank you, Dave. Welcome everyone to the observatory, and for those of you online on YouTube or Facebook Live or Periscope, my name is Nick. I am your resident content strategist here at Britain Marketing and Design Group. We're a creative design agency. We create a lot of brand-centered content. We're all about lifestyle marketing, color trended goods, consumer goods, fashion, so forth. This is Dave. Dave, tell us what you do here at Britain, real quick.
I am a digital strategist and analyst, so I help our clients come up with strategies for social media, digital marketing, and then report back to tell them what a great job we did.
Absolutely. I agree with that. This is the 8th session of the content exploration sessions or series. We're going to talk about how to create engaging content, a little bit into content outreach and so forth today. And we hope that these sessions we're going to try to stick to 30 minutes. We hope that they're informative, collaborative time with maybe some tools and tips and so forth that you can kind of take away from these quick sessions. So we are in the observatory here at Britain Marketing and Design Group. This is our content creation studio, our real-time listening and monitoring hub, our creative collaborative space, and it's essentially our command center for digital communication and content creation here. We have a number of different creatives and designers and strategists and analysts and so forth in this space. And I'm going to talk for a couple of slides here, and I'll chime in when it's your turn to talk.
I'll
so
get on Facebook.
Okay, so. All right, so we do love to create things here at Britain Marketing and Design Group. We do a monthly feature called the Design Feature, and we create lovely desktop calendars. This month was September, and we created, senior digital designer Danielle Hartman created some awesome free wallpaper desktop calendars, very nature-inspired, fallish designs. Go ahead and download our whole sketchpad, notepads. We love for people to take notes and so forth. So go to bmdg.us sketch bmdg.us / pad 8 in order to design this sketchpad that we have and doodle away. If you want to participate, ask us questions and so forth, we are, like we said, we're online live streaming. Tag hashtag Great Britain, or tweet us at BritainMDG, or maybe just go ahead and comment in our Facebook live stream if that is still going strong, or give us a heart on Periscope or whatnot. We're going to try to give you a little bit of a quick view of how to create engaging content, our take on how to cultivate healthy social communities. This quote here by Dr. Zeus, we won't necessarily talk too much about being authentic in your messaging, because we feel that if you are not being authentic in your messaging from a brand standpoint, you're already kind of eliminating any chance of success from that standpoint. So because social media is all about authentic communication and transparency and so forth. So be who you are and say what you feel, because those who mind don't matter and those who matter don't mind. So that's kind of how we like to think of things here at Britain. So what are we going to talk about today? I'm going to stop talking soon, so Dave's going to chime in a little bit more. But we are going to talk about what social engagement means to us. We're going to talk about owned versus earned versus paid, the tripod of content marketing. We're going to talk about activity versus engagement versus amplification. We're going to talk about content types as it relates to engagement. We're going to talk a little bit more about what works for each channel, and we're not going to talk about all channels, but we'll talk about a lot of different channels. And then we'll kind of round it out with some tools that we use that might help you in your content marketing and content creation process. Quick plug. We have a content strategy. Our content strategy approach that we follow is content cartography. It's something that we've created here in-house at Britain Marketing Design Group, and it's really about optimizing and being efficient around the aggregation process, the content creation process, the editorial process, and the sharing process. It allows us to plan for and create engaging, purposeful content that is channel agnostic, that caters to those native channel specific user experience, while they're also very hyper searchable. So we kind of feel that there's absolutely a science to content creation and content marketing. Our philosophy is that the function drives the people to the content and the form makes them come back to it. They're interrelated and must be kind of prioritized in order to maximize your reach. And that's what content cartography is all about. It's about merging that form and the function. It's about creating content that appeals to your fans as well as makes sense for the algorithms and search engines out there. So let's kind of jump into it. Let's talk about how to define social engagement. Building healthy social communities is, for us, it's all about participation and sharing. It's about being targeted and appropriate and using the right content types for that specific channel. But what it really boils down to is you want to create and share things that people like, things that make people kind of pause, content that's remarkable, for lack of a better word, content that makes people go out of their way to talk about, share, and reshare your content. Content that's very close to the brand that you're working with. So that's the approach we take to define what social engagement is. It's about creating that content that makes people pause or be inspired. Um, Dave, what's your take on social engagement?
Social engagement, anytime you have an interaction with your audience or your audience interacts with you, that's social engagement. It's as simple as getting somebody to click on a picture or click like or comment on a post, or as deep as an entire messaging conversation with someone in your audience, and maybe leads to a new connection or a friendship or a business transaction, which could be one of your goals. So anytime you're convincing the audience or a follower to stop their scroll and take an action, that's social engagement.
Yeah. Well said. And finally, where Dave is participating a little bit more. I still feel I always hog the limelight here.
Well, you had a Dr. Seuss quote, and I was thinking, like, what Dr. Seuss quote would I use? And I was thinking, I would not eat them in a house. I would not eat them with a mouse. That would be my Dr. Seuss quote.
Okay, all right. So let's talk about owned, earned, and paid. Not to be confused with Earth, Wind, and Fire. Hashtag sorry, not sorry. That one was for Dennis in the back of the room. But owned, earned, and paid, what it really means to us is you hear these terms a lot in content marketing. And we think they might be a good way of kind of clarifying of what your strategic content direction should be, but it will also kind of help you execute your tactics. The owned portion is your digital properties that you own, that you have kind of a stranglehold on, if you will, which you don't necessarily have to own them, purchase them, because owned property can still be your Facebook, even though they could change and they could not be there. MySpace, friend feed, whatever. But they are owned properties because you're the one managing them and creating content on them. Earned content is, that's when we're talking about that social engagement. It's how are people interacting with you? Are they retweeting you? Are they commenting? Are they liking? Are they retumbling you? Are they writing reviews? Are you getting free press and so forth? And then we have the paid aspect of it, which is, paid media refers to any kind of paid digital media that you pay for. So it could be anything from sponsored Facebook posts, digital display ads, SEM, etc. And for us, again, derived from the content cartography approach, owned, earned, and paid, for you to be successful, you would like to have a healthy mix of the three in order to maximize your brand reach and your engagement. Do you have anything to say about owned, earned, and paid?
No, you covered it.
Okay, good.
You owned it.
I owned it. I earned your praise.
You didn't
So
pay for it.
I did not pay for it. So let's talk about something that's near and dear to our hearts, which is basically social activity, engagement, amplification, which is a hard word to say. Amplification. Thank you. So for us, there's a remarkable correlation between these three different facets: the activity that you have, the engagement that you derive from that activity, and then in turn the amplification that you earn from creating those loyalists. The correlation is there. It's a symbiotic relationships because without the activity you can't have the engagement, and without the engagement you can't essentially have fans that will share your stuff. So for us, when we look at those things, is your social activity is about maximizing your publishing schedule to make sure that your publishing cadence for that specific channel fits the audience. For instance, you wouldn't be publishing 10, 15 times on Facebook per day because that's not what that audience is known is used to. But that might be okay on Twitter, for instance. The engagement factor is how are people interacting with you? How are people and how are you measuring that? Are people liking your stuff? Are they commenting? Is it resonating with your audience? So again, if you have the social activity there, again, we see a correlation between the more active you are on social, the better your engagement is. You just have to make sure that that social activity is applied to your different audience on that specific channel. And then we have the amplification, which is all about creating those brand loyalists and evangelists that kind of speak up for you. Because the more people that get vested in your brand and engage with your brand, the more they will become advocates for you and your content, so they will share and repost it and retweet it and so forth. And thus you have people that are advocating for you and amplifying your brand.
It also helps too that many of the social channels, when they see that engagement and amplification, they see you as more relevant because people are wanting to interact with your brand, and so that helps you get seen as well.
Yeah. And on top of that, a lot of these social channels are driven by algorithms. So it's very easy to deduce if your strategy for that specific channel is resonating with that audience. Because if they're not engaging with you, you are not presenting them with content that they like or is relatable or is resonating with them. So that requires you to pivot and create different content that that audience likes, or maybe you're on the wrong channel.
Yeah.
Um, let's talk about content types for a second here. So when we, again, going back to social activity, being purposeful with your content, making sure that your content is on the right channel, targeting the right audience at the right time. There's also a deeper level there, which is the content types. Are you making sure that on the specific channel that you are sharing, are you sharing the right content that is the most engaging? Different channels have different features, different user experience, different UI, different algorithms, and so forth, and they treat your content types differently. Right now, obviously, and Dave's going to talk a lot about this here soon, video seems to be the content type that is truly engaging from that standpoint. So you have to weigh and see what is engaging on this specific channel. For us, for instance, just as a quick example, a content type status or text versus image versus video versus audio versus whatever it might be. When we did some testing on Facebook, we always used to lead with images. Then we did some research and we saw some commentary and information about, well, you should try to lead with link posts or link content types instead, because the Facebook's algorithm shows a little bit of a preference to link posts versus images, which to us that was crazy because you always want to lead with visuals, but then again, you go back to thinking about, well, the link post actually pulls in a lot of metadata that has an image and has additional information that the image post doesn't have. So we started testing with link posts on Facebook, and all of a sudden we had a 30% increase in engagement and reach just because of that little switch. So that's what the really where your due diligence with auditing your social channels come in. It's not just about looking at the content that you're creating and is that resonating, but are we delivering that content to the best extent of for that specific channel. So we've seen that a lot with Facebook. With Twitter, of course, images is key because people are just so fast and they just thumb down their timeline. So if you have images or GIFs, you're going to see a little bit of a higher engagement rate there. So let's talk about more. What's the most engaging content types as it applies to different channels and so forth right now, Dave?
Well, right now, everybody's moving towards video, Facebook especially. So there are some things that you can do to make sure it's not necessarily just enough to put video on. You want to make it engaging. You want people to watch it because in a lot of instances, people will only watch the first few seconds of a video, maybe 10 seconds. If you can get past that point, maybe they'll watch a few minutes. And that's one of the things that I think is the reason Facebook is pushing video is if they get engaged, they'll spend a lot more time with it, which means more time to be on their website and more time to see Facebook ads. Some things to remember as far as engaging video, you got to be comfortable in front of the camera. If you can't spout a Dr. Seuss quote off the top of your head, then maybe you're not comfortable enough. But comfortable means authentic, right? If you can be real, if you can make eye contact with the camera, then you're having a conversation one-on-one. So that's kind of important. You want to make sure you tell a story, keep everybody captivated. You want to make sure that you kind of, even if you're not following a script, you maybe have a kind of scripted ahead of time, at least in your head, some kind of a roadmap so you know where you're going and you're not just rambling on about Dr. Seuss.
Sure.
So interaction, you want to make sure that if you're doing a live video, especially, that you look at those comments and you're interacting with people. If you're getting questions from the audience or people are commenting, that you can, that's like one of the cool things about live video is access to the broadcaster. So make sure that you're interacting with people, and when it comes to video, size matters, because the longer you're broadcasting, the longer people have to discover you. We don't always show up immediately just because you post something to Facebook. People might not see it for 4 hours, but if you're doing a live video that's longer than a couple of minutes, there's more opportunity to be discovered in, say, the Facebook feed. Some other things to remember, it's video, so you got to show, you can't tell. You got to show things. If it is recorded, go back and edit it later, so you cut out the fluff, the parts where people are going to tune out. And then remember that the first and the last shot makes a difference, because that's often what is used as a thumbnail when people are scrolling through and can watch it later. So you don't want to have the last shot being you bending down to turn off the camera, because that's going to be the thumbnail for the video, and that's not very engaging to want to push play when you're scrolling through. So
that's very true.
some tips for video.
Yeah, let's get into it here a little bit more. We're going to talk a little bit about some of our primary channels that we use, but we're going to just kind of have Dave talk about Facebook, Twitter, Instagram, Pinterest, LinkedIn, and Snapchat. Give us a couple of tips and examples of how you can create engaging content that is custom for those specific channels. So let's start with the Facebook.com.
The Facebook.com.
Yeah.
Remember Facebook's goals. They want you, again, A, to spend more time on Facebook, and B, that it's social media, so they want you to engage. They want you to like, to comment, to share, to have conversations, and they're going to reward the people that do, because again, you're spending more time on Facebook to see more ads, which is what they want. So you want to remember those Facebook goals, find out the most effective times to be broadcasting live video, to be posting, so that you can maximize the times when people are online and have those conversations and interact with people. You want to use images that are going to stop the scroll and videos that are going to stop the scroll. People are going through on their phones. You got to grab their attention. So find out what is effective for you. And we're talking about that video, or you mentioned that links rather are for brand pages, maybe getting better reach. But I find on a personal Facebook page, at least with mine right now, I don't see a lot of interaction with links. I see more interaction with personal kind of posts that I think the algorithm kind of, from a person perspective, puts more weight towards. So find out what works for you and for your brand, and make sure you maximize that. Make sure there's a call to action too. Are you asking a question or doing something that encourages the engagement? You can't just put something out there and hope that somebody interacts with you. You have to encourage it.
Yeah. And one of the things that I think is a lot of brands are starting to, from a video perspective, are starting to be more proactive on the video part, is that people are starting to use captions more and more on their video, because a lot of times, videos don't necessarily autoplay sound. They hardly ever do, or ever. So having captions on there gives you the user a secondary kind of call to action there, because obviously first you see the visuals and then you see the captions. So helps you. It also helps the people that have kids that are on their phones in bed or whatnot. Not that I would ever be on my phone in bed, but
Don't you know that's time for watching reruns of King of Queens?
right.
That's
That's
not time for Facebook.
that's not time for. That's right. So King of Queens. Okay. All right.
Like
Moving
that
on.
show?
No. All right. Let's talk about the Twitter. The Twitter.
Twitter is a great channel for engagement, because you can tag people, you can tag locations, and you can use hashtags, which obviously you've heard quite a bit about. But it's an opportunity for discovery, which is an important part of engagement. Some things, like when you use a hashtag, can have an effect on the engagement, not only for discovery, but if you have engagement, you're 55%, or if you have hashtags rather, you're 55% more likely to be retweeted. Hashtag tweets have 21% higher engagement. And you want to remember, though, not to overdo it. When Twitter first got hashtags, there were people that would do their entire post as a hashtag, but really anything more than 2, and you start to see engagement actually drop. So it can help engagement, but at a limit. You don't want to have too much, or you'll see engagement drop. Photos and videos, as we mentioned, 3 times more likely to see engagement. So you want to do things that will stop the scroll on people's phones.
Yeah. So if we look at a data approach to Twitter, the optimal tweet would have some kind of engaging photo or video. It would be tagging locations or brands or people, and it would feature a link in it, and it would probably have 2 to 3
hashtags,
hashtags. So that's your perfect tweet right there. A little tip.
Thanks.
Yep. All right. Instagram. Take it away.
Instagram's always about images, so you want to use high quality images. A lot of people will use images from a high quality digital camera and then upload them to Instagram. But when you have visually stunning content, that's when you see really high engagement.
Yeah.
Hashtags can be used on Instagram as well. Another channel where you can see great discovery from hashtags. More than 5 hashtags is when you start to see a detraction. People just kind of get annoyed by them. Another thing to look at is the trending section of Instagram. What are people talking about? Are there ways to incorporate those topics? And again, that leads to discovery. It leads to what people are having conversations about now. So maybe they're more engaged in that conversation. And then Instagram has their companion apps like Hyperlapse for time-lapse videos, and Boomerang for the looping GIFs. And you don't want to forget about the new Instagram Stories feature as well, because it's a little bit more personal, and it's a chance to really have that authentic conversation.
Yeah. So the new Instagram Stories, obviously, it's completely a ripoff from Snapchat. But how is that changing kind of the visual quality of Instagram as a channel? Is that just kind of making changing the whole the usage experience, because when you do stories, you'd use maybe some, some painting on it and some things like that, more Snapchat
Stickers.
stuff, yeah, stickers and whatnot. So do you think that's going to change a little bit, or is it just completely siloed away from the regular Instagram feed?
I think most people use Instagram stories kind of separately to kind of give more of a behind the scenes look. People in their feed tend to use more of the visual, high quality pictures, and the stories tends to be more behind the scenes. The one difference between Instagram stories and Snap stories is the audience. Instagram has a much bigger audience, and right now they want you to be seen, so you're getting much bigger reach.
Yeah, cool. Pinterest. I don't have a clever name for Pinterest, or I mean, not saying that Insta spam was clever, but I don't
But
have.
we think you'll find these tips very Pinteresting.
Okay, thank you.
You want to tell a story with your Pinterest boards. If you have pins that are all related to a wedding, for example, and you tell the story of the wedding and maybe how they used products, if you can tell a story with that board, even if it's not directly related to what services your business offers, if you can kind of weave in and out of what your services are, then you can make it relevant to the audience, not so much to your business. You put it in their terms and their context. You want to think about SEO. You want to think about what topics people are talking about and searching for. Have that in the titles and the descriptions. Think beyond, the obvious stuff. If you're an insurance agency, maybe you have a wedding board that talks about different things they should insure along the way as they, go through that life stage change. So you want to think kind of outside the box a little bit, think outside the board. Link pins. You want to link pins rather back to your website so that you can get the referral traffic. Pinterest is really good for driving people to your website, to a product, to a service, so that they can make a purchase or find out more information. One thing to remember about Pinterest is that people will go back months later, so you want to make it evergreen. Not very, you don't want to have a board about a sale because they might see it 4 months after the sale is over and it doesn't really make sense anymore. And you want to encourage engagement outside of Pinterest. So if you have a pin it button on your website that says, hey, you can pin this article, they're seeing that on Pinterest. They're posting your content, and that's engagement. That's sharing and amplification, which we already talked about earlier.
Yeah, yeah, absolutely. Yeah, Pinterest is it's an interesting social channel, especially for us, because we have so many of our brands are really lifestyle branded, color driven, and so forth, and what a lot of people don't necessarily realize is that Pinterest is a great traffic driver, just like you said, for your website, and we're seeing Pinterest being one of our top social referrals for a lot of different campaigns that we do. So
one thing you want to remember is to keep it mobile friendly. So you'll want to use images that are 600 pixels wide, for example, so that when somebody's waiting to pick up their kid from school and they're scrolling through on their phone on Pinterest, they still have that opportunity to see your web links and services and products and whatever.
If your brand has a lot of great inspirational, vivid, colorful imagery, and you have a social media presence, sponsoring Pin is a really good way to entice that Pinterest audience to check out the rest of your website and your brand through that. So we like that. Let's talk about Facebook for Nerds.
I think you're talking about LinkedIn.
Yes.
LinkedIn. Make sure that if you're trying to have engaging content, that you are sharing that content not only on your your company page, but you want to share it in Facebook groups too, because those are people that have similar interests. They might already be talking about insurance, for example. We keep on that topic.
Yeah.
They might be talking about things having to do with insurance, so they're more likely to be interested in your content and more likely to engage with it. So that's one thing to keep in mind, is LinkedIn groups can be valuable for engagement. LinkedIn themselves says always include a clear call to action, like a link, when compared to updates that don't have links and versus have links. Having a link is on average about twice the engagement as when you're not.
Okay.
I think videos are very similar. If you're sharing a YouTube video, which can play in LinkedIn, they see about 75% higher engagement on LinkedIn. So there are things that you can do to push the engagement level and include a call to action, ask a thoughtful question, things like that.
And what did we just see happen yesterday? Supposedly, we need to vet this more, but we got an email about LinkedIn bringing back the hashtags.
That
So,
is correct.
so apparently that's going to be a thing on LinkedIn again, hashtags. So we'll see how that plays into from a search and discovery standpoint and whatnot. Hashtags on LinkedIn. Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. All right. Snapalicious.
Snapchat.
Snapchat.
He's not very good with names. Snap Stories, as we kind of talked a little bit about earlier with Instagram Stories, Snap Stories are big because you can tell a story. It can be random stuff, but if you tell an entire story, it can be very captivating and somebody can follow along through the entire story, not just one or two snaps and then get bored because they want to see what happens next, and it stays there for about 24 hours. So it's an opportunity for people to see your story and then want to come back for more the next day. You want to make sure that you customize that snap code on Snapchat because you can have a little bit of personality in there and it can make it a little bit more authentic and they don't feel like they're talking to a robot or just a company. You know, if you find a way to make it a little bit more personal, then maybe they'll feel a little bit more apt to engage with you because they feel like they know you. Filters and lenses, so like when you make yourself look like a doggy.
Yeah, I do that all the time.
I do, yeah. Sometimes we'll do it together because you can do the double dog face.
Okay.
And you know, they're goofy, but people can react to them and people can laugh. And again, it takes you off your guard a little bit, and you can be a little bit more authentic. Creativity rules on Snapchat. When it comes to Snapchat, the people that are the most creative, whether you're drawing on your snap, whether you're creative in telling a story, maybe from a different perspective, rather than just talking to your phone, are you actually thinking of it almost like a filmmaker? The people that are most creative on Snapchat by far see the most engagement. You got to be a good storyteller. Ask questions. There are some people that will, tell people to, go down and do a direct response message at the bottom of their phone. Ask a question and say, okay, what do you want to happen next in the story? Should we, go left or go right with the fork in the road? And then they'll wait for some responses and then continue filming the story, which is quite engaging. It's quite interactive. Another thing to remember is it all has to be organic discovery on Snapchat. Minimum advertising is $100,000 on Snapchat, which most of us do not have. So you want to make sure that you are finding ways to get discovered. And you also can reverse that and use Snapchat to have people discover your other channels like Facebook and LinkedIn and Instagram and all the stuff we talked about already. I'll see a lot of people post on Snapchat, hey, I just posted a YouTube video, go watch it now, it's about this. And in 10 seconds, they can promote you going to another channel and engaging with them in multiple places.
So do you think Snapchat is the channel right now where most of the social media creative ground is breaking?
I think it's really neat to see as people discover Snapchat, how creative people can get. So as if you recall, like when people first jumped on Vine and we thought, well, 6-second videos, how's anybody going to get creative? But people would blow your mind with some of their creativity, and Snapchat is kind of the same way. You have to kind of think outside the 10 seconds limit that they give you per snap and tell a story over the course of 10-second snaps. It doesn't have to be limited by 10 seconds.
Yeah. Cool. All right, so let's talk about some tools real quick, and I'm going to breeze through this because we're already at like 35 minutes, so we could probably sit here and talk for a long time, but people has to eat and do work and stuff. So we use a lot of different tools for measuring content engagement. We use Sprout Social has a feature called Viral Post that audits your channels for when you should post and so forth. There's Follower Wonk, there's Timely, there's Right Tag to figure out what are the most engaging hashtags for different industries and so forth. We use we use a service called Rival IQ to disseminate what is resonating with our different audiences on the different channels with the different content types and so forth. So, but mostly it's just, there's not, again, we keep saying this, there's no like one tool that can do everything for you. It's about you finding the tools that work for you and your team. And hopefully they're not too many and too siloed, and they kind of talk to each other. So, but it's all about testing, testing, testing. That's what content engagement is really all about. You need to find what's working for you, and then adjust and find what's not working and adjust even more. So,
And you got to remember every audience is different, every channel is different,
Mhm.
so you got to kind of see what works for you, and you got to remember it's constantly changing. So when you think you have it figured out, that's when Mark Zuckerberg utters the words, "Hey, let's change the algorithm."
Yeah, let's do that. To recap, content engagement and outreach from our perspective is about defining for your brand, what social content means. That's the first step. Defining what that engagement KPI would be, and then you need to make sure that you measure and follow that, and win that KPI. It's about harnessing that trifecta of content marketing, the owned, earned, and paid. It's about the correlation and the symbiotic relationship between your social activity, your social engagement, and your amplification. And then it's really finding out what content type works for your brand for that specific channel. And then it's all about those little tips that we talked about and so forth. Having that said, what's next? Next session is going to be last week of September 28th. We always do these on the last Wednesday of each month, and we're going to talk about real content marketing tips here. I think our VP of Online Brand Buzz, Megan's going to be up here in the panel for that, so that'll be exciting. Content exploration, like I said, we're going to go through all 2016, and then we'll figure out what to do for 2017. Content marketing tips is next. We're going to just scoop through the Q&A time, and if there are any questions or so on any of the social channels that we mentioned, we'll make sure that we go ahead and answer them as soon as we can here today. If you want to access the landing page we have for this session with the video, with the sketchpad, with the presentation, and a lot of other things, maybe sign up for our newsletter or whatnot, follow us on social channels, go to bmdg.us/content-exploration-session-8, which is super long, but you can just go to BrittonMDG or ask us a question on Twitter or Facebook or whatnot, and we'll get the appropriate material over to you. That's it, folks. Thanks for tuning in. We'll see you late September. Thumbs up. We did it.
Yay.
Yay. Yay.